What would happen if we mixed one of the most popular game mechanics from the last years, the deck building mechanism, with one of the most popular science fiction settings, with the alien setting? Well, that can't be something bad, right? Hello, this is Michel via ten Sorbet, and this is a new episode of Wojennik TV. Today, as I said a few moments ago, a game which will firstly introduce the deck building mechanics in its core, but also it will include the Alien franchise theme. This will be the review of Legendary Encounters, an Alien deck building game. This title was published by Upper Deck Entertainment in 2014. It was designed by Ben Cichowski and Daniel Mandel. It is a game for 1 to 5 players aged 17 or higher, and the time of play will be somewhere around 45 to 60 minutes. This is a game in which we will be creating our own deck of cards, trying to accomplish some missions set in the Alien universe. We will be facing multiple enemies known from the Alien movies. So if you're a fan of this franchise, this is a title which might be very interesting. I'd like to show you how the elements of this game look, then how the game works, and at the end I would like to give you my final thoughts. I'd like to tell you what I think are the strong but also the weaker points of this game. So let's begin. Here is Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game. As you can see, the elements which are part of this game are enclosed in a big, huge box in which everything is stored. Now, the reason why this box is so big is firstly the fact that you receive 600 cards in this game which have to be stored somewhere. Secondly, we receive a playing mat which is stored inside the box. Now, when it comes to the components, as I said a few moments ago, the main and the most important element of this game are the cards, because this is a deck building game in which we will be using quite a lot of different types of cards. Now, to prepare the game, we have to prepare several decks. Firstly, we have to prepare the so-called Hive deck. The Hive deck is composed of mainly alien cards, alien opponents cards, but this is due to the fact that before each game we will randomly, or maybe we will choose from all the available list, if we want to do so, a number of objectives. As you can see, each time we will be playing through 3 different objectives of different levels. Firstly, we will have to accomplish objective number 1, then the second one, and then the third one. As you can see, each objective has their own distinctive mission, so it tells you what you have to do in order to accomplish it. Secondly, it has also an information about what happens if we draw from the Hive deck an event card. Now, those objectives are of course linked to what happened in all the 4 Alien movies, so we can find here some events which happened in each of those movies. So for people who know the story, this will be quite an interesting thing. To each of those objectives, there is a certain amount of cards which is associated, and it is from those cards that we will construct the Hive deck. The Hive deck will be assorted in such a way that we will place the first objective cards on top, then the second objective cards in the middle, and the last type of cards, the objective 3 cards, at the bottom. So as you can see here, we'll find objective 3 cards in the middle of the stack, objective 2 cards, and here objective 1. Now, this hive deck will be used in order to find things that we should find in the complex when trying to accomplish our mission, but also we will encounter several enemies, which will at most times be alien opponents. Now, each such opponent has a certain strength level, which tells us how difficult it is to kill such an enemy. As you can see, those values can vary from 2 or even 1 to 7 or even more. Sometimes such an enemy will also have a special ability which will be triggered, for instance, when such an enemy is placed into the combat zone, or maybe when it is killed, or maybe when it is revealed. In this deck, we'll find also hazard cards and event cards. I said a few moments ago that events trigger things which are described on the objective cards. Hazards, on the other hand, will trigger things which are written on the location card, because before we start playing, apart choosing those objectives, apart creating the hive deck, we will also randomly choose one of the locations. We have 4 of them, which are locations from each of the 4 parts of the Alien movies. And each time we draw a hazard, we check which objective we are trying to accomplish at the given time, and we trigger the hazard which is described on the location card. Before we start playing, we also have to prepare the strike deck. Now this deck is just placed onto its corresponding space on the playing mat, and those will be the wound cards which will be drawn from this deck if we happen to be hit by an enemy. As you can see, we have a certain value which indicates how many wounds we sustain due to such an attack. Some wounds are more dangerous than others because they are aggravated and cannot be healed. They will be indicated in a different way than others. We have to prepare also our character deck. We have 16 different characters, including 4 copies of Ripley, one for each part of the movie, for each part of the Alien franchise, and to each character there is a certain amount of cards associated, which are then mixed together, and we create the barracks deck. Now in each game we can choose 4 different characters, and here, for instance, for this deck I have randomly chosen Parker, Ripley number 8 from the 4th part of Alien, Bishop, and Brother Dylan. So as you can see, we have a lot of different characters, but we have also others. We have, for instance, Captain Dallas from the 1st part. We have Hicks or Hudson from the 2nd part. We have other brothers from the 3rd. We have Christie from the 4th part, or Cole. So there is a lot of variety, and each time you will create a different set of characters. At any given time, you will always have 5 of those cards coming from this deck available to be purchased. And each such a card has, firstly, the name to which character it is related, 2 symbols indicating their type and specialty, and finally either a strength parameter or an information about how many purchase points it gives you, and it also has a certain value, so the number of purchase points that you have to spend in order to acquire such a card during your turn. Some cards will also have a special capability, special actions. Some of them will be triggered instantly when you play the card, but others will be activated only if you played during your turn another card having the same symbol. So when creating your deck, it will be important to look also at those secondary symbols in order to construct a deck in such a way that the cards will permit you to activate those additional capabilities. Now, after doing all this, you still have to do one thing. You have to randomly choose your initial specialization, because there are also some role cards, and you will randomly choose one of them. So you can become, for instance, a medic, or you can become a researcher or a mercenary. And we have 2 copies of those cards. The first one will be the avatar card, which will be placed in front of you, telling you who you are during this game, what is your health, what is the number of your health points, and what is your special card that you receive. To each avatar there is 1 special card related, and you will add it to your deck at the game's start. When speaking of decks, your initial deck will be comprised of 3 cards. The first of 3 types of cards. The first one will be the special card. You will also get 5 specialists, which, as you can see, only grant you 1 purchase point, and of 7 grants, which give you 1 strength point. Now, what is also important, and what is a very nice addition to this game, is this fantastic playing mat. This playing mat not only enables you to store everything where it should be, it also helps you, for instance, to play according to the turn order which is present on this mat. It also enables you to move the cards in such a way that you exactly know where they are, because we have the complex and we have the combat zone through which some enemies, some cards will be moving. And now I'd like to show you how a turn looks like. Now, firstly, what happens at the start of each player's turn is the hive phase. During the hive phase, we draw the top card from this deck and we place it to the first empty space next to this deck. So at the start, we'll just place this card in such a way. This will be a card placed face up, so we face down, so we do not know what it is. If, for instance, it would be the second turn, a new card would be drawn and the first card would be moved to the left in order to make space to the second one, and so on. Those cards will be moved alongside the complex to the combat zone. As soon as they enter the combat zone, they are unveiled. And at the same time, if this happens to be an opponent, this opponent during the third phase of each player's turn will be attacking you and will inflicting you strikes. So after adding a new card to the complex face down, it's up to the player to play his own turn. We always have a hand of 6 cards, and during our turn we will play those cards. We can play them in the order that we want. Now at the start of the game it will be quite easy because we will be having only the basic cards. Now what those cards do? As I said earlier, grants give you 1 strength point, and with 4 strength points, thanks to 4 grants, I could do 2 things. Firstly, I could scan one of those rooms because, as you can see, we have a scan price in order to see what the hidden card represents. So for instance, here to scan I'd have to spend 3 strength points. Here it would be 4. So if I decided to scan here, I could unveil this card, which, as you can see, is an alien opponent, a xenomorph runner who will be moving quite quickly in the direction of the combat zone. Now, if this card already was unveiled at the start of my turn, having 4 strength points, I would have more options available, because I could still decide to scan this hidden card, which costs 4, but I could also spend all 4 strength points in order to kill this opponent, because combat in this game is very straightforward. You just have to accumulate a certain number of strength points in order to kill an opponent. If I had, for instance, 7 strength points or 6, I could, for instance, kill an opponent and scan somewhere else, or kill 2 opponents, so it's absolutely feasible. Now, this is only part of the game, because killing opponents, scanning rooms is fun, but this is a deck building game, and in order to create your deck, in order to enhance your abilities, you have to buy new cards, and you will be doing so by using those buy points, those purchase points, which are found both on specialists and on new cards that you acquire. Now, having 2 purchase points would enable me to buy a card which costs exactly 2. So for instance, here I could go for Eulogy, a card associated to Brother Dylan, which would grant me 2 additional buy points if I were to draw this card, because a card bought is placed into my discard pile and I will be able to access it only after reshuffling my deck. Each time a card is purchased from the HQ, we place a new one. So if I still had some purchase points, I could buy another card and replace it with another. An option which is always possible is also buying Sergeant cards, but in order to do so, we have to spend 3 purchase points. We have a Sergeant's deck from which we draw a card. As you can see, this is Sergeant Pawn. Each time this will be a Sergeant costing 3, who gives us 2 purchase points and who has the coordinate keyword. The difference between those sergeants are those special symbols. As I said earlier, this will be important in order to trigger some abilities of different cards. Now, the coordination keyword is an interesting mechanic because it allows you to interact with another player during his turn. He can ask for help during his turn, and you can play a card with the coordinate keyword in order to allow your team member to use such a card during his turn. So you will play such a card, you will draw a replacement, but your teammate can use such a card, for instance, to obtain additional purchase points. This is a way to help each other. Now, after playing my own turn, after scanning, killing enemies, after purchasing new cards, it's the third phase, which is the strike phase. Now, during the strike phase, each enemy who is present in the combat zone will attack the player. We have to draw 1 card from the strike deck for each opponent present in the combat zone, and this tells us how many wounds we sustain. If the number of wounds is equal or superior to our health, we are killed, and our game is done. It is possible to win the game even with a player eliminated, because having a player being killed doesn't mean that the entire team loses. We still continue playing. An interesting mechanic is also the possibility of becoming an alien, because in this game, as you might expect, we have also some facehugger opponents who attack us, and if we do not successfully kill it during our turn or the following turn, this alien infects us and it will become a chest burster. And as you might expect, this won't end in a good way, because we will be killed, and it is possible at that point to continue playing, but not as a human player, but as an alien player, not playing cooperatively as you did before, but against your fellow teammates. So this is an interesting mechanic, something which instantly makes you think of this franchise, something very climatic. Now, after the strike phase, we pass to the cleanup phase, where we discard all unplayed cards, where we discard all cards played to our discard pile, and we redraw up to 6 cards. And that's pretty it when it comes to the basic concepts of legendary encounters, Alien. We have several other rules governing, for instance, other keywords than coordinate. We have, for instance, sacrifice or vigilant keywords. We have additional rules. We have the possibility to play with agendas, with hidden roles or hidden objectives, but those are advanced rules and they are recommended for advanced players. Now, I'd like to share with you my thoughts about this game, so what I think are its strong and weaker points, so let's pass to the conclusion. Alien is often considered as one of the best science fiction movies ever made. Some people say it is the best, and there are a lot of people who like this setting, who like this universe. When looking for games set in the Alien franchise, it is hard to find a better one than Legendary Encounters Alien. We have, of course, Nemesis, published some time ago, but it is a completely different game. Legendary Encounters is a deck building game, a deck which will focus on constructing your own engine and in this sector, it is hard to think of any other game which works as good as Legendary Encounters Alien. What I think are the very strong points of this title are firstly its visual aspect, what you receive in this huge box, the quantity of cards, and the climate. Firstly, when we concentrate on this visual aspect, we get tons of cards, really a lot of them, and each and every of them is so pretty. Looking at those graphics, looking at the artwork, you instantly think of some scenes from the Alien franchise. You take a look at Bishop using his knife and holding Hudson by his hand. You look at Cole giving the gun to Ren. You look at Ripley trying to protect Newt, and you think of those scenes. For people who know the Alien franchise, who remember the scenes from the movies, this is a piece of art. This is something extremely interesting. This is something which instantly will make their gaming experience a lot better. This doesn't mean that if you do not know Alien at all, or if you watched the movies a long time ago, you won't be having fun with this game. Because even though this climatic setting, the immersive aspect is huge if you know the story, the game still works pretty fine if you don't. If you do not know the setting, you will still have fun because the game is just fun to play. But returning to the climate, I must say that this is an extremely climatic game because of several reasons. The first one is pretty obvious. It is the visual aspect, it is the fact that you are looking at all those pretty artwork making you think of the movie. But that's not all. You have also a lot of mechanics, a lot of cards which work in certain ways, which are very well linked to some things which happened during the movies. So accomplishing objectives or having some missions to accomplish will be similar to missions or to objectives which heroes of the Alien franchise had to accomplish during the movies. So you will be, for instance, finding infected colonists. You will be trying to install armament. You will be trying to block the ventilation shafts. Different things associated to what happened in all the Alien movies. Thirdly, at last, we have this very useful, very climatic playing mat. And it is an excellent addition because firstly, all is on its place. You have absolutely everything under control. You know where to place all the kinds of cards and you get tons of types of cards in this game. So this is very useful. But secondly, it is again a thing that increases this playing experience and is extremely climatic. It is very pretty and also it has some additional links to what happened in the movies. So looking at the aliens, for instance, entering the med labs, you will instantly think of the aliens which invaded the med labs during one of the movies. It would work pretty much the same way if you didn't have the map, but having this map is again a thing which makes this game more climatic, and at the same time it also helps you to play. What I like in this game is the fact that you receive tons of decisions. You really have to take a lot of decisions in this game. At the same time, it is a game very easy to learn. It is a game with a low entry level, which is not very complex, but it makes you really think that you have a lot of difficult choices to make. And I like it a lot because each turn you will be carefully thinking about in what order to play my cards, which alien to focus on, or which part of the complex to scan, finally who to recruit. Again, you will also be constantly engaged during your fellow gamers' turns because of the coordinate mechanic, which is very simple, which is very clever, but at the same time it enables a lot more interaction between the players. Some deck building games are games in which you will be building your own engine without pretty much looking at what your over gamers will be doing. You will be constructing your own deck, you will be accomplishing your own objectives. But here it is a cooperative game, and you will win as a group or you will lose as a group. In contrast to many games, if someone dies, you still can win as a group if your fellow gamers accomplish the objectives. But here is another fun factor. You can still continue playing as an alien, because you can not only be infected by the facehugger, then killed by the chest buster, you can continue playing as an alien. And this is another very climatic addition, which also is a fantastic reference to the Alien movies. So even though you can die early, you can still continue playing as an alien, and the game becomes a completely different thing. So we have also a lot of different options, different variants, still keeping the game quite simple and straightforward. There are some games which try to increase their climate, add additional depth by adding a lot of small rules, which will make people think of some events which happened in the given universe. But here the designing philosophy was very much different. The core mechanics are simple, but the majority of the climatic elements are on the cards. You have those extremely pretty pictures. You have the way the cards work linked to what they should represent. And additionally, you have also all those interesting objectives. So the game is, as I said earlier, is quite easy to learn, is quite easy to teach, and quite easy to play, because it has a great flow. You won't be waiting a lot of time before your turn, even if you play in a group of 5 players, and even if you do wait, you still will be constantly engaged because of the coordination mechanic, which is also a nice addition, because it enables you to additionally enhance the powers of your teammates, granting them additional bonuses when playing your sergeants or overcards with the coordination keyword. So this is a game which has also a huge replay value because of several factors, because of the fact that you have 16 different characters from which you're choosing only 4. You have a distinctive role card, you have different objectives which are always also randomly chosen, and you have different locations, you have additional drone cards. Those things, apart from the random distribution of cards, make this game a game with a huge replay value. And if you want to play the movies from the first part to the 4th, it's also possible. You can just choose the correct cards in order to play those movies. So you have all in this game that you would like to find in an Alien game. So what, in my opinion, are the weaker points of Legendary Encounters Alien? I'd say that the only thing which, in my opinion, might be a problem is the fact that if randomly choosing the characters from which you will be building the barracks deck and from where you will be then creating your own deck, well, the character mix will not be equal. Sometimes you'll get powerful mixes of characters who work well together. Sometimes you'll have characters weaker with a lot less synergy between them, enabling you to accomplish only some limited objectives. If you have, for instance, 2 or 3 characters which are focused on deck manipulation, it will be harder to beat some very hardcore aliens. If, on the other hand, you have a lot of beatdown in your deck, it will be, for instance, difficult to buy the most precious cards, or maybe to get additional bonuses because of the symbols. If you have 4 characters with different symbols, it will be more difficult to activate some additional capacities. So some character mixes will work better, some will make you feel that you have a weaker that you have a smaller choice and a weaker deck. But this is not a big issue because you can always custom your characters, you can choose your characters, and you can also, if you want, for instance, home rule that you have to possess at every time during a game at least 2 characters which share their type. So this will be a lot easier. Having said that, I believe that this game has no designing flaws. It has no very obvious weaker points. I really enjoyed it a lot. I have this game in my collection now for 4 or 5 years. I have played it a few years back. I haven't enjoyed it a lot, but now what changed is the fact that I have recently reviewed all the 4 parts of Alien and also Prometheus, and after doing so I wanted to replay this game, and it was really a blast. So I'd say that this game works extremely well if you know the story, if you're an Alien fan. If you're not, you'll still be able to play correctly, to have fun with this game, but I believe that the game will be less attractive, it will be less climatic and immersive than if you know the story and if you like this universe. So, Legendary Encounters Alien is an exceptional, a very good deck building game, a game which is a must-have for people who like the setting, a game which will still be enjoyed by others if they are looking for an interesting and quite climatic title with terrific artwork. A game with lots of decisions, a game with a quite accessible rules layer with a low entry level, still with a lot of interaction and a lot of decisions to make. I strongly recommend you try this game. This was the review of Legendary Encounters, an Alien deck building game by Upper Deck Entertainment. Thank you a lot for watching this movie. I invite you to take a look at our other videos. We have also some other English reviews and unboxings. Take also a look at our Facebook and Instagram accounts. And if you want to support Wojennik TV, take a look at our Patronite account. I wish you a fantastic day and see you next time.